You know, anything that comes to mind. It's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about how that was, how much this is a start of a journey and not the end of it. Like when you go through a course and then you move towards accreditation and you think, okay, now I'm I'm at a certain point. I've really been reflecting a lot lately about how I'm really at a beginner's mind in this, and which is a really positive thing. I don't mean that like I have so much too far to go, and but it really opens the space when I think about that reality that I'm at a beginning place, and so I can be curious and not to move to that professional I know place, because that closes my mind. It makes me feel like I have to be expert. It moves me to a much different place. So the past year really um, gave me such depth of understanding of how much I don't know. And that was like a good thing. And that it's okay, in fact, important to not know. It's in fact a coaching mindset to not know, to sit. And so that has been really compelling to me. I'm working with the person who is took over my role at my old job, and I'm onboarding her. And I was thinking, if she told me 2 months in, even a year in, I think I got this, I would be like, yeah, you need time. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, so it was a restart of something that I thought I was an expert in. And as Ram said to me at the beginning, you won't gain knowledge, you'll gain wisdom. And I think that's the wisdom I gained was I'm at a beginning of a journey, which feels very freeing to me. So I think that's this past year helped me see that. The other thing that comes to mind for me is how incredibly powerful that peer group is that I formed within Coacharya. Like
Yeah.
how I didn't know then. I think I knew the first day, but it's great to know that was a true thing, that
Yeah.
these would be people who would really impact my life, and they still are. And then now there's more people. Like every time I meet someone from Coacharya, there's someone new who then becomes a part of my community. So those are things I've been thinking about lately. Yeah, so this is going to sound in contrast to what I just said. I feel fairly confident. I mean, and mainly because I feel I don't know how to put it. I mean, particularly with the course we took, certainly learning the competencies was why I started. I wanted to really strengthen a practice that I'd been doing, and we even talked about had some capacity for and some aptitude, but really not a practice that was mentored, and which I thought was important. So so that has given me a lot of confidence, not only that I have come a long way, but that I have a lot of support in continuing that development. But I think what was really powerful for me and why I chose the course was the ontological base of that, because as crazy as the time was when I was taking it, um, I really have a strong sense that the more we know ourselves, the more we can kind of let go of ourselves. Like the more we're aware of who we are, what motivates us, what triggers us, what, how we move through space, the more we can let it go and say, this is, I see these things that are habits of mind or habits of practice, but and my awareness of them allows me to be free of them. And so I feel like that both the combination of growing awareness of myself at a very deep level with ICF competencies has put me in this place where I feel like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Yes, always work to do, still working towards those things, but I'm in a place where I'm having some success and have a lot of support to continue that success. So that's sort of how I'm feeling. I'm trying to think of another word besides transforming, because everyone uses that word, but it really was a powerful changing. I changed so much through it. Um, and at the same time, I changed to becoming more myself. So the experience, um, You know, it's so funny because we talked a lot about when you're in coaching and people can't aren't always thinking about things or feeling things energetically. And I think that is what the experience for me was, such an energetic experience. I felt so much of what I was learning, I would take in, by hearing it, but it changed me um, on all levels of being, like it, not just from the perspective of how I think or how I intellectualize around understanding, but how I um, am in the world and how I show up, and my awareness of that. And so the experience it was just a comprehensive one. I guess that's the way to put it, more than transform. It was so comprehensive. It really had me thinking on many levels. And I looked forward every week to getting there, because I knew every week I was going to move in that way. And every week was going to be a discovery of myself and of a practice and of the people I worked with. And so it was just an incredible experience. I mean, I really, it's one of those things where you think, I wish I could do it over again, because it was so deeply fulfilling. And so, yeah, I don't know if that gets at anything that people can put their hands on, but it definitely, uh, it changed my life. Yeah, I felt like the ontological conversations were central to the journey, uh, because the nature of coaching is really focused on um, being present, in some ways, absence of yourself. And it enabled me to really think about and become more aware of that presence I have in a room, and what it means. And so I felt like they really deepened the idea of what coaching presence means in ways that would have been hard to do just by talking about it, because the ontological training was really experience based. And it would have been hard to do, or it just was it was a beautiful way of doing it. I can think of so many examples that were used in the course that aren't just beautiful metaphors, but they're tools that get me to very rapidly recognize things about myself in the process of coaching that allow me to be so much more effective as a coach. And again, I don't think something you can read about and do. I think it is a practice, just like coaching is a practice. So you have to, I think the course made it possible to um, get your arms around the idea of what an ontological approach to coaching would be. And it was the best way to do it. And it also just made it just a super fun, interesting course. So that was a great thing. That, I always was excited when we were going to talk about anything related to ontology, because I knew that I would leave there having opened a new door to myself that I didn't know was there. And that was, oh, heck, that's a great thing to do during a class. I just felt, yeah, it was pretty powerful. I think ontology is relevant, and even if you're not talking about it, is happening. So it's like it's so relevant, I think, to talk about the topic of ontology when you're talking about coaching. So it is very relevant. I think it's relevant as a coach, to getting a deeper understanding yourself. And it's also relevant developing techniques and tools and working with a client. So I thought it had so much relevancy in many ways, because it can be something that it improves just you and your practice, and it can improve or help or support a client in their journey. So it has so many connections, I think, that make sense. And it's not something that people talk about a lot. So it was, as much as I thought before I took the course, I read about it and thought, oh, I get what this is. It isn't something to get, again, intellectually. It was something to get as a practice. And it really felt extremely relevant to me, and still does, and would love to continue the practice. Oh, absolutely. I mean, actually, if you're going through a coaching journey, if it doesn't impact other areas of your life, you're not really going through the journey. So
Yeah.
I think that it really impacts your life because you start to, um, it's not that you're coaching everybody, but it changes your perspective, or it really deepens your perspective of yourself and your relationships with others. Um, and I think Ontology did that in many ways by helping me identify um, my essential nature a bit more, and being able to be less driven by the unknowns that I have. That, as much as I consider myself a reflective person, this type of reflection was beyond that. And so I feel much more conscious every day. I remember that analogy that was shared about the marathon, where you are really, you know, sort of trying to accomplish something that you think is all yours to accomplish, and you realize that there are many things conspiring to lead you to where you're going. And I feel like this is what it's done in my life, is that I'm just so much more aware of the elements that are conspiring for good or bad that move me through a day. It's brought me. I remember I had a friend who said to me once, "You're so much more of a being person than a doing person, and your life is so doing right now. How could you be more being?" And that helped me, and Ontology helped me become more of a being person. So that's, if I could redo the reflections again, that they in themselves were discovery processes that extended the course every single time. I could not wait to get what the reflections were for the course. They were so beautifully tied to what we were learning, but broad enough so they weren't prescriptive. And so, and then also the feedback we got, or that I got on them, helped me to be encouraged to even go deeper. So all of that was just such a beautiful cycle of iterative learning. um, I loved the questions because I would always think I left the class just like, wow, I really got something. And then the reflections would ask me questions and think, I don't have it. I need to dig deeper to understand this. And that's what reflection should be, that you're really, you know, pausing to pause and look. And I found them to be just spot on every single time, and essential to my learning. And I'm so grateful that I got into a habit of doing them every time shortly after the session, because they really were so tied to that experience. And I could feel further shifts happening after each course. Like in the course, I literally would feel like this click, 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 like these shifts and gears of my life just, and it'd be so exciting. And then I would get out and then I would do these reflections and more clicking would happen. And so it was, they were really powerful tools for me for growth. Yeah. I would recommend this course to others who want to learn in this way. And I would say I looked at a lot of coaching programs before I started, and I really was looking for diverse thinking and and a broadening of what I had been exposed to in the world. And if that's what you're looking for, this will be that. It it challenged me every single week, not just around the practice, which is important too, because I think you can learn something, but it's the places where people disagree where you go deeper in your learning. Like, and it wasn't, I don't mean disagree, but in a, but who really challenge thinking. And I found that happened every single week because there were just such a wonderful, experienced group of people drawn to doing this course. So anyone who's going to pick an ontologically based coaching course is not going to be someone who wants to just phone it in. I feel like, so you get this group of people who are really motivated to think about these topics. So who Coacharya draws, I think, is an important part of this. And then just the teaching of it. was so wonderful for me in terms of how it unfolded, and the structure of the course. So, and then the other part of that is, now that I'm done with the course, the community that remains for me has been so powerful. I was almost like toward the end of the course, like screeching my heels, like, don't let it end, because now I'm going to be dropped off at the end of this and have to work on my own. And then it turns out I don't. And in fact, there's a whole community of people who want to support me through this. And there's interesting topics, and you can get involved in those topics. You know, you feel like you're a part of this community. It's not just I'm watching the webinars, or I'm, you know, like, you can reach out to people at all levels and they'll reach back to you. And so I would recommend it because of the course, the topic, the people it draws, and then the community that Coacharya fosters. Yeah, you should just teach a lot more. I would say I felt like I got really lucky, and I know there are other wonderful facilitators and instructors. However, the combination of you and Tracy was really powerful. It Because of the, again, I think the difference is what's needed. It creates this sort of breadth of perspective, and there's a lot of respect between the two of you that was really clear, and difference, and that was really powerful, and different areas of strengths. So I thought that the combination was beautiful. I also felt this deep commitment from both of you, and knew that I could go to each of you for different things that really, as in terms of mentorship, was incredible to have that kind of like different perspectives for that process of mentorship. So I, I thought that having two facilitators, I've always thought in my work, has been important, because it's just, even with a smaller cohort, I mean, we had a nice sized cohort, but they're still, they're intimate cohorts. It's still important, I think, to have those two perspectives. And then the two people in particular who brought those perspectives for me was really strong. So yeah, I don't have a lot of feedback except to say, do it more. It was great. You're just reminding me, Trayvon, that these are important conversations for me to have. So I appreciate you interviewing me, and I'm now making sure, like, when there's a chance for me to do something like this, that I say yes to it, because you can get, I think, in coaching, because it can be such a solitary business. You can get really wrapped up in your own thinking. And I think that the power of that course, and then ongoing, and that's why I'm so grateful you talked me into taking the second one, because you did talk me into it. I had no intention of doing that. The power of that course is it moved me through my process, and I didn't become complacent, or I'm not trying to check a box for certification. In the US, and you and I probably have talked about this before, my certification, not a lot of people have asked me about that. And I didn't do it for that reason. And at some point, I know when I get, it'll help me along, but I did it because I felt like I needed a practice group. When I was doing counseling, I had a practice group. I had people I talked to and that kept me ethical, well-trained, and excited about my work. And I just thought, I need that for this work too. So like when you started up, I asked me, how's your practice going? It's gotten good, because I realized 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, you got to re-engage people again, because you're not going to, that's what keeps you feeling excited about this work. And whether I build a great business or I don't build a great business, I still love the work. I could spend hours talking about why something didn't work out right, or like, it's just so interesting to me. I love the reading I'm doing, everything that is not what I was experiencing in my last work, which is so transactional.
Yeah.
I came to really understand I'd like to solve human problems at an individual level. That is the problem solving I love doing. It deeply engages me. I think I'm good at it. So it like brings two things together, my talent and my desire. And my other job was solving organizational leadership or solving like administrative and leadership problems at an organizational level. And some people love that. I mean, that's their jam. And they love doing coaching at that level. They love doing all that. And I'm like, yeah, I know I'm much more of an intimate person. And so I have to keep that going in my practice. And so I appreciate these kind of conversations because now I've got like a day ahead of me and I'm like so excited for what I'm going to work on.